السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا قبل حدوث الأشياء ويبقى بعد فناء الأشياء. تفرد بالأولية والقدم ووسم كل شيء ما عداه بالفناء والعدم. كما قال عز شأنه: كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت. وقال: كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام. والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنام سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وكونوا مع الصادقين. صلوات. You know that this Friday is a day when it is between two very important occasions. One, demolition of Baqi', 8th of Shawwal, which was last Saturday according to our city here. And tomorrow, this Saturday, is going to be the Shahadat day of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi afdal salatu wasalam. According to one narration, his martyrdom day was on 25th of this month. So in many places, people commemorate his Shahadat on 25th of Shawwal, and in many places on 15th of Shawwal. So, who is Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam? As we believe, alhamdulillah, all of us know, and our children also know, that he was an Imam. According to Ahl Sunnah, they also respect him very much. They respect him, and they consider him one of the greatest scholars, maybe greatest scholars of his time. They agree, but they don't believe in his infallibility, in his ismat or imamat. But yes, they agree that he was someone who actually spread the knowledge of Islam. And the word Sadiq is actually a title, as we know. His name was Ja'far, and the title is Sadiq. And this title, although it was given by other Imams, but widely was accepted by all Muslims, all sects, and they would call him with this name. And when they would narrate anything from him, would say, Qala al-Sadiq, the Sadiq said. And the reason for that was because other Muslims, other than Shi'as, they consider him as a scholar and as a narrator of hadith. They consider him as a narrator of hadith. They say, yes, he was a narrator of hadith, muhaddith. Or he was an alim, a scholar. And a scholar of such a caliber that he was the teacher of all 4 Imams of Ahlul Sunnah, directly or indirectly. Directly, he was the teacher of other Imams, the first Imam in fiqh of Ahlul Sunnah, Imam Abu Hanifa. And if you read the life of Imam Abu Hanifa, who is followed by the most of the Muslims, or the majority of Muslims around the world. Majority of them are Hanafi Muslims. Hanafi referring to Imam Abu Hanifa. So somebody asked him about his age, how old he was. And this is a very private question, and many people don't feel comfortable answering this question at how old are you? When somebody asked him, how old are you? He said, I am 2 years old. He said, what? 2 years old? What's he talking about? Are you joking? He said, no. This is the truth. I'm just 2 years old. How you are 2 years old? He said, because I spent 2 years as a student with Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. And this is my whole life. These 2 years, this is my whole life. Other part of my life are not that important that I should even mention them. So these 2 years, very valuable years that I spent in his presence. And in one saying, it is very much known, when he said, "Law lasanatan lahalaka Nu'man." His original name was Nu'man. If it were not about Imam Sadiq, or those 2 years, sanatan means 2 years. Actually, he spent some of his time with Imam Baqir as well. Imam Baqir, Imam Sadiq, both. Lawla sanatan, if there were no these 2 years, lahalak Nu'man, Nu'man would perish. Nu'man means his name. Abu Hanifa would have gone, he would perish. So if you see me, he said, whatever am I, it is because the blessings of those 2 years that I spent with these 2 great scholars of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. So to this extent, they accept him as a scholar, but not as an imam. And there were thousands of muhaddithin, narrators of hadith, who would sit and would say, حدثنا Aba Abdullah as-Sadiq. His kunya was Aba Abdullah. Aba Abdullah has narrated to us. He taught us this hadith. Only in Kufa there were 4,000 students while he was in Medina. While sitting in Medina, he had a school in Kufa. 4,000 students of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Overall, As-Sadiq, people called him As-Sadiq for this reason, because in his time, that was the time when the scholars who would narrate the hadith, ruwat, rawi of hadith, the narrators of hadith would narrate a hadith in abundance. Means every single person would narrate hundreds of hadith. And it was very hard for people to really recognize or scrutinize the ahadith of Rasulullah and distinguish between right hadith and fabricated hadith. It was very hard for them because everybody is saying, I heard this from such a person and that person, and the people have died. The name he is taking, They are no more there. And he's saying, I heard from him, the person who has died, and he from the other person, and he from him, and he from Rasulullah, that Rasulullah said this. This way there was plenty of hadith everywhere, and many of narrators, all sides. Among these narrators, Ahlul Sunnah consider Imam al-Sadiq, not an Imam as I said, as a narrator of hadith. They say, yes, he was a narrator, he was a muhaddith. He knew a hadith of Rasulullah because he was from the family of the Prophet. He was a knowledgeable person. He would narrate a hadith. He was a rawi. When he was a rawi, and at that time, everybody is rawi. Everybody is claiming to be muhaddith, to narrate a hadith from Rasulullah. Because the person who would narrate hadith from Rasulullah, he would gain so much respect in the society. And say, oh, he is a muhaddith, he is a rawi of Rasulullah. He has some sayings with his chain of narrators from the Prophet directly. So he would, receive some respect from people. For that reason, people started fabricating a hadith. And that was the time of fabrication of a hadith. In such a situation, there was a person who would say a hadith, and people had no need to investigate that hadith, whether it is right or wrong. Just accept it from him, not from everybody. Hundreds of ruwat claiming to be ravi for the sake of dunya, for the sake of fame and name, or some other reasons. So when they would say the hadith, people will ask, okay, who is this person who is narrating hadith? What is his credibility? How reliable person he himself is? Then the person who he is naming as another narrator or the chain of narrators, you have to go and investigate about everybody. But it was agreed upon that, yes, anybody who narrates any hadith, you have to go and investigate before you accepting it. Except when Imam al-Sadiq says something. You don't have to investigate, just accept it. Why? Because he is Sadiq. Period. So among those ruwat, he was known as Sadiq among all scholars and all other Muslims. Sadiq, he is Sadiq. If you say, why he is Sadiq? Just because he was from the family of Rasulullah. First of all, he himself, how he was Sadiq. Why people call him Sadiq? Same question can apply on Rasulullah himself. Why people called him Sadiq? Not Muslims, non-Muslims, kafir would call him Sadiq. Why? Tell me. Because of his character. They saw him from his childhood. He never told a lie. He never spoke something against the truth. Same thing about him. Imam Sadiq and his father. But he was in such a time when people were lying on Rasulullah, and he was the only person that everybody would respect him and accept him as just truthful. Whatever he's saying, I don't have to go and investigate about him, because he is a Sadiq. He is a person. We have seen him, we know about him, just as people knew about his grandfather Rasulullah that he was Sadiq, he is also Sadiq. So this is the simple reason for somebody to be known as Sadiq, and everybody is calling him Sadiq. Nobody challenged his truthfulness. This is one reason. Another reason for that, brothers, is again very simple and very clear. Because when at that time, the time is called the time of tabi'in. See, there are grades and levels of narrators, of ruwat. One is Sahabi, who saw the Prophet and he heard the hadith from the Prophet himself directly. After Sahabi, there are Tabi'een. Tabi'een who did not see the Prophet, but they have seen a Sahabi who saw the Prophet. Then the third tabaqa comes of Tabi'een. Those who did not see the Prophet, neither they have seen any Sahabi who saw the Prophet, rather they have seen a Tabi'i who saw a Sahabi, and the Sahabi saw the Prophet. So that's called Tabi'in, the third generation. Imam was living in such an environment when there were third generations. In this generation, people would say, I heard from him, and he from him, and he from him, at least two people in between, and the third one is the Prophet, or the fourth one is the Prophet. Remember this. So why Imam al-Sadiq should be Sadiq? It's simple. Because when people would narrate any hadith from Rasulullah, they had to tell people that where they did get this hadith from. So they have to say from such a person, and he from him, and he from him, to make the chain. But when it came to the Prophet, to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, when he is speaking that I am giving you this hadith, and the Prophet said this, he didn't need to give the chain of narrators, because he never narrated from anyone non-ma'soom. Okay, so for us ma'soom, they were ma'soomin. But for even regular people, he narrated from Imam Baqir. And he was also Sadiq according to them. They knew that Imam Sadiq is narrating from only one chain. He has only one single chain. His father, and he is from his father, Imam Sajjad. Everybody respected him. Even today, even the Wahhabis, even the Kharijis, they cannot, refute this reality and truth that he was the most pious person, if not Imam or Ma'soom. He's the most pious and most knowledgeable person of his time. Imam Baqir and his father Imam Sajjad and his father Imam Husain alayhi salam. His father Madinatul Ilm, Imam Ali alayhi salam. And then Rasulullah. So this was the only chain. When Imam al-Sadiq would narrate, because see, in our books of ahadith, the most ahadith, the biggest number that we have of ahadith is from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, and the second number is Imam Baqir alayhi salam. Then we can say Imam Rida alayhi salam, because these three imams were able to preach with sort of freedom. Not full freedom, but still, at least compared to other imams, they were in better situation to narrate a hadith of Rasulullah. And see, this is the reason, because many things you hear in majalis, but if you connect the dots, you reach to some conclusions easily. I just said this, that Imam Sadiq had never narrated anything from other than Ma'soomin. Yes, he might have, there are few ahadith that he is referring to someone that he said to give reference to people who respect only Sahaba, for example. So he's saying, see, that Sahabi also had said this. This is a reference. Just if I give you my Sunni brothers a reference of Bukhari, it doesn't mean that I believe in Bukhari. No. I'm giving them a reference of Bukhari because they believe in Bukhari. The same thing sometimes. That's why you see in Nahjul Balagha, I don't know how people talk, really. They're saying, see, Imam Ali alayhi salam is saying about bay'ah. He's writing to Muawiyah saying, all these people who did bay'at of first and second Khalifa, the same people did bay'at to me. And they take it as a compliment to first and second Khalifa by Imam Ali alayhi salam. How it is compliment? How? Tell me. Because he's saying, see, those people did bay'ah, so he is accepting the bay'ah of first and second Khalifa. No, not at all. See, who is he talking to? He's talking to Muawiyah. Muawiyah believed, and he has so many letters that he wrote to Imam Ali alayhi salam saying that, see, Khalifa was him. That was real Khalifa, because people did bay'ah to him. And that was, the second was, and the third was, they were Khalifa. You are not Khalifa because we dispute your Khilafat. And those Khilafat were never disputed. In his reply, Imam Ali is saying that what you're talking about refuted. Who disputed my Khilafat? No one. Exactly the same people who accepted them as a Khalifa, who you consider Khalifa, same people did bay'ah to me. So he's giving a reference to a person who has a specific belief. He's giving that reference to him. It doesn't mean that Imam Ali is believing in that bay'at. No, not at all. The same thing here about Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. When Imam Sadiq would give the hadith, references of hadith, people would accept it immediately. See this. Why? Because they knew that the chain of narrators of Imam Sadiq is just final. You don't have to investigate there and go and ask who told you this. No. Everybody knew that he has taken from his father, and Rasulullah. Very clean and clear chain of narrators. Now, you hear the hadith, a very famous hadith called Hadith Silsilatul Dhahab. Remember it? Hadith Silsilatul Dhahab. The golden chain. When you talk about golden chain and hadith of golden chain, your mind goes to only one hadith. Quickly, you go to one single hadith of whom? Imam Ahsant, mashallah, Imam Rida alayhi salam. Correct? You have heard it maybe hundreds of times. When Imam Rida was talking and he was saying an means from, I heard this from my father, and he took his name, and he's from his father, he is from his father, he is from his father. So what did the people say? People said, oh, wow. See the chain of narrators. This is Silsilatul Dhahab. This is golden chain. Golden, pure, golden chain. So why golden chain should be only one hadith? Tell me. The reason is this. Generations. After the generation in which Imam Sadiq was, there was a gap of one generation. When people were not able to hear much from Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam. Why? Because most of his time was in the prison. He spent his time in the prison because of the tyrants. Did not let people to connect to him. Remember? So there was a gap, a generation gap. Those people who knew that Sadiq, when he said, every single thing he is saying is golden chain. It's not new thing. Whatever Imam Sadiq says is golden chain. Period. So they didn't have to say, okay, this hadith is golden chain. No. Every hadith that is coming from Sadiq is golden chain. After a generation gap, they heard a hadith from an imam openly in such a crowd of hundreds of thousands of people. At that moment, what people said? Same thing that the people were thinking in the time of Imam Sadiq. They thought the same thing. They said it, golden chain. Imam said, it's fine. Why golden chain? Because first time, after a long time, After a generation, you are hearing a hadith with the chain of narrators from a ma'soom. So now you are calling it's something new for you. It's not new. Every single hadith from any imam is golden chain. Has no one in between in the chain of narrators who you should ask his authenticity. He's authentic, 100% sadiq, everyone. So, in conclusion, that Imam was such an Imam that all, even today, accept him. All Muslims, you will not find any single Muslim in this whole world speaking even one single word against Imam Sadiq or disputing his sadaqat, his truthfulness. Talk to anybody. You can experience by yourself. Anyone, any Muslim in the world, any those scholars who talk about, even those sectarian, kind of leaders. Talk to them. How about Imam Sadiq? Say, oh, Imam Sadiq is a scholar. He was truthful. Until today. Now the point is here. The one who was Sadiq, and until today he is Sadiq, and everyone accepts him as a Sadiq. The question is, when the first book of Ahadith of our brothers, Ahl Sunnah, was being compiled by Imam Bukhari, and he was traveling around the world just to find only authentic Ahadith, only Sahih Hadith. Only hadith that is reliable and hadith sahih with good chain of narrators. What do you think that how many hadith should be from Imam Sadiq in this book? Should be full of hadith from Imam Sadiq. Why? Because chain of narrators are all golden chain. But what you find? No hadith from Imam Sadiq in the whole book. It's not something really surprising? It is. Ask them why. You're narrating from everyone except Imam Sadiq and calling that book Sahih book. This is one. So this was a kind of dhulm of the history on our A'immah. Another dhulm was not from their enemies, from their followers. Unknowingly, Na'udhu billah, I cannot say that, this word is big word if I say it, dhulm. But it is kind of unfairness from us, regarding our imams. Imam al-Sadiq always tried every single person from his followers to have knowledge. Go do some research. And every shahadat and wilayat, and I always emphasize, just at least read one hadith. How much time it takes? Go online. There are authentic, websites. Just search one hadith from Imam Sadiq, one of his sayings, read it. Cannot do that? It's hard for you? What do you do? Then what you can do? Imam would say that even if I see a young man is not seeking religious knowledge, he never talked this way as he was talking in this hadith. He said, I can punish him. Even I will give him punishment in this world for not seeking ilm. Which means we have to, inshallah, try our best to increase in our knowledge. Then we will be able to really be proud of our A'immah alayhi salam, starting from Imam Ali, Bab Madinatul Ilm, to Imam al-Sadiq, that he is the Ra'isul Madhab. He is the one who interpreted true jurisprudence of Islam. And that's why we have been attributed to him as Ja'fari, Madhab Ja'fari. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to follow our Imams and increase our knowledge about them, and inshallah in the day of judgment be among the true followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah qad amarakum Allah fi muhkam kitab